What if I told you that the shyness you feel, the awkwardness that creeps up your spine when you meet someone new, the fear that your voice might shake in front of a crowd, what if none of that is actually your fault? Stay with me here, because what I'm about to share changed everything for me. Back in high school, I had this vision of who I wanted to be. You know that kid in every school, the one who walks into a room and everyone just gravitates toward them, confident, relaxed, never stumbles over their words, never second guesses whether they should speak up or stay quiet. That's who I wanted to be. But that's not who I was. Instead, I was the kid whose heart would start racing the moment an attractive classmate walked by. I'd rehearse conversations in my head, plan out exactly what I'd say, and then when the moment came, my mind would go completely blank. Or worse, I'd say something so awkward that I'd replay it in my head for weeks afterward, cringing every single time. The more I tried to be smooth and confident, the more tense I became. It was like my body was working against me. My shoulders would tighten up, my voice would sound weird in my own ears. I'd become hyper-aware of every tiny movement I made, wondering if I looked stupid, if they could tell how nervous I was. So I did what any desperate teenager would do. I went looking for answers. I read articles online, watched videos, asked people for advice. And you know what everyone told me? Just be yourself. Stop caring what people think. Confidence comes from within. Great, thanks. Super helpful. Here's the thing, that advice isn't wrong. It's just incomplete. It's like telling someone who's drowning to just relax and float. Technically true, but when you're in the middle of it, when that wave of anxiety hits, just be yourself feels impossible. I spent months trying to implement this advice, forcing myself to care less, trying to convince myself that other people's opinions didn't matter. And it helped a little. The edges of my anxiety softened slightly, but the core of it, that fundamental discomfort with putting myself out there, was still there. Then, one afternoon, everything changed. I was cleaning out my desk, throwing away old papers and notebooks from previous years, when I found something tucked away in the back of a drawer. A folded piece of paper, yellowed at the edges. I almost tossed it without looking, but something made me unfold it. 2 signatures. My dad's rushed scrawl at the bottom, and above it, my teacher's neat, precise handwriting. The moment I saw it, a memory exploded in my mind with perfect clarity. I'm sitting in 4th grade. Mrs. Henderson hands me this paper, and her face is stern, disappointed. "Your parents need to sign this," she says, loud enough that the kids around me hear. "It says you were talking too much in class. That's not acceptable behavior." I remember my face getting hot. The kids near me started snickering. Tommy, who sat behind me, whispered, "Ooh," like I was in serious trouble. I tried to make myself smaller in my chair. That afternoon, I brought the paper home to my parents. My mom looked at it, then at me, and her whole face changed. "Why can't you just behave?" she said. Not angry exactly. Worse, disappointed. Like I was fundamentally failing at something basic that other kids had figured out. My dad signed the paper without saying anything, but the silence felt heavy with judgment. Here's what hit me as I stood there holding that old paper. I wasn't being punished for doing anything wrong. I was being punished for expressing myself, for being a kid who had thoughts and wanted to share them. And the message I absorbed, the one that sank deep into my bones, was this: speaking up leads to punishment. That moment in 4th grade wasn't unique. It was a pattern. Be quiet in restaurants. Don't interrupt adults. Sit still in church. Stop asking so many questions. Every environment I existed in as a kid had the same underlying message. Your natural instinct to engage with the world is inappropriate. Suppress it. And we wonder why, years later, we feel anxious about speaking in meetings. We wonder why approaching someone new makes our palms sweat. We wonder why we're shy. Suddenly, everything made sense. My shyness wasn't a personality flaw. It wasn't something broken inside me. It was learned. It was trained into me by years of well-meaning adults who thought they were teaching me manners, but were actually teaching me to fear social interaction. This realization was liberating, but it also left me with a question. Okay, so I understand where this came from. Now what? How do I unlearn years of conditioning? I realized I needed to do two things, and neither of them was easy, but both were essential. First, I had to stop beating myself up for feeling shy. Every time I felt that familiar anxiety rising, I'd been adding a second layer of pain on top of it. I'd think, why am I like this? Everyone else can handle this. What's wrong with me? But there was nothing wrong with me. I was responding exactly the way I'd been trained to respond. Acknowledging that, really accepting it, took away so much of the shame. Second, I needed to rewire my brain through experience. And there was only one way to do that: gradual, consistent exposure to the exact situations that scared me. I thought about what my worst nightmare scenario was, what absolutely terrified me more than anything else, and I landed on it pretty quickly. Walking up to a complete stranger, an attractive girl in the middle of the street, and asking her for her number. Just thinking about it made my stomach drop. So that became my target. Not tomorrow, not even next month, but eventually I wanted to be able to do that without my hands shaking. I started so small it felt almost silly. I'd walk up to someone on the street and ask, "Hey, what time is it?" That's it, just that question. And even that made my heart pound. But I did it. Once, then twice, then every day.
After a week, I upgraded. "Excuse me, are you having a good day?" It sounds so simple, but every single time I had to push through that wall of resistance in my chest. Then, "Nice weather we're having, right?" Then, "Do you know where the nearest coffee shop is?" Each question slightly more vulnerable than the last. Each interaction teaching my nervous system that nothing bad happens when I put myself out there. Some days were awful. I'd stumble over my words, people would give me weird looks or ignore me completely. I'd go home feeling like an idiot, but I kept going. Here's what nobody tells you about exposure therapy. It's not linear. Some days you feel like you're making progress, and then the next day you're right back at square one, heart racing before you even open your mouth. But if you keep showing up, if you keep taking those small steps, something shifts. After about a year of this, something incredible happened. I was walking down the street, saw a girl I thought was attractive, and without even thinking about it, I walked up and started a conversation. We talked for 10 minutes. I got a number. And the wild part? It felt natural. Not forced, not terrifying, just normal. But even if that feels like too much for you right now, that's okay. Start smaller. Smile at a stranger. Make eye contact with the barista when you order coffee. Sit in a coffee shop instead of hiding in your room. Nothing is too small when you're rebuilding yourself. I know how cliché this sounds, but it's true. Every massive journey starts with one tiny step, and then another, and another. You don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to take the next step. Your shyness isn't a permanent part of who you are. It's just a habit your nervous system learned a long time ago, probably when you were too young to question whether it was serving you. And just like it was learned, it can be unlearned. You're not broken. You're not weird. You're just carrying weight that was never yours to carry in the first place. And the moment you realize that, the moment you take that first small step toward the person you want to become, everything starts to change. Trust the process, trust yourself, and take that first step today.